This is one of my favorite historical figures. She's a shaman, an indigenous Mexican healer who was born around 1894 in the village of Huautla de Jimenez in the state of Oaxaca. Her name was María Sabina, and she was known for her ceremonies using Psilocybin mexicana, aka the sacred mushrooms, which she referred to as niños santos or holy children. Now, there have been several attempts at explaining her legacy and the impact that she had on the world. But in this episode, I want to present some of the mystical interpretations of her work, because they offer a glimpse into the profound relationship that she had with these mushrooms and the deep, rich, beautiful cosmology that informed her work. And I hope it will inspire us to see how we can apply some of her teachings to our own lives. And just as a side note, the reason why I chose to talk about a historical figure who is not directly involved in the field of psychology is because I believe that her story aligns so beautifully with transpersonal psychology, with the ideas of Carl Jung and others. So stick around if that sounds interesting to you. Let's start by talking about the history and mythology that surrounds María Sabina's work. She was part of the Mazatec culture, and her people had a long-standing tradition of working with these sacred mushrooms. The tradition goes back thousands of years, and it's believed that the mushrooms played an important role in pre-Columbian rituals. The Mazatec people saw the mushrooms as a way to connect with the spiritual realm, and they used them for healing, for divination, and for guidance. In fact, the word Niños Santos actually means little prophets in Spanish. So these mushrooms were seen as divine messengers from the spiritual world. Now, what's really interesting is that this isn't unique to the Mazatec culture. Many indigenous cultures around the world have their own traditions of using sacred plants for healing and spiritual growth. Like the use of peyote by the Native American Church, or the use of ayahuasca by the indigenous people of the Amazon. Each of these plants has its own unique cultural significance and is used in different ways, but all of them are seen as powerful tools for connecting with the divine or with the deeper mysteries of existence. One of the key elements of María Sabina's ceremonies was her use of song. She was a gifted singer, and her songs were an integral part of the healing process. Now, the songs themselves were more than just beautiful melodies. They were also a kind of vehicle for spiritual communion. Through her chanting, María Sabina was able to create a powerful connection between the physical and the spiritual realms, allowing her patients to access deeper levels of consciousness and to receive guidance and healing from the divine. Now, the songs that she sang contained a lot of symbolic language and imagery that was drawn from the rich tapestry of Mazatec cosmology. The mushrooms themselves were seen as the body of the Virgin Mary, and the spores that they released were seen as her tears. And the journey that the participants went on was seen as a kind of death and resurrection experience. These symbols may seem strange or even bizarre to us today, but they were deeply meaningful to the Mazatec people, and they formed the basis for María Sabina's healing work. So what was the purpose of these ceremonies? Well, for one, they were a way to connect with the spiritual realm and to receive guidance and healing from the divine. The Mazatec people believed that illness was often caused by a disturbance in the flow of energy in the body, and that this could be corrected through the use of the mushrooms. They also saw the mushrooms as a way to gain insight into the mysteries of life, death, and the universe. The journey that participants went on was often deeply transformative, and it could help them to see the world in a new way. So now let's talk about some of the psychological perspectives on María Sabina's work. From a more modern perspective, we can see parallels to concepts in analytical psychology, particularly the ideas of Carl Jung. For Jung, the journey through the unconscious that's often triggered by the use of psychedelics could lead to a kind of rebirth or transformation. This is similar to the death and resurrection symbolism that we see in María Sabina's work. The mushrooms were seen as a way to access the unconscious mind and to bring about this kind of transformation. We can also see parallels to Jung's concept of archetypes. Archetypes are universal, ancient patterns and images that reside in the collective unconscious. They're essentially the building blocks of human experience, and they shape our perceptions and understanding of the world. Jung believed that these archetypes could be accessed through dreams, through active imagination, and through the use of psychedelics. And this is exactly what María Sabina's patients were doing when they participated in her ceremonies. They were using the mushrooms to access a deeper level of consciousness, where they could connect with these archetypal energies and receive guidance and healing. María Sabina's approach to healing also has roots in indigenous cultures. In many indigenous cultures, the concept of the shaman is central to their spiritual and healing practices. Shamans are often seen as intermediaries between the physical and the spiritual realms, and they use a variety of techniques to heal their communities. Music and dance are often an important part of shamanic practice, and they're used to induce altered states of consciousness and to facilitate healing. María Sabina's use of song and her ability to create a trance-like state through her chanting are all part of this larger shamanic tradition. She was someone who was able to connect with the spiritual world and bring back wisdom and healing to her community. And in that sense, she was truly a healer and a teacher. Another aspect of María Sabina's work that has captured the attention of modern psychologists is her use of metaphor and symbolism. As we've already discussed, her songs were filled with rich, layered imagery that was drawn from the Mazatec cosmology. But beyond the specific symbols that she used, there's also a more general sense in which her work was deeply metaphorical. For example, the journey that her patients went on was not just a literal journey into the forest or into the mountains. It was also a symbolic journey into the depths of their own psyche. The challenges they faced on their journey were not just external challenges. They were also internal challenges that they needed to overcome in order to grow and transform. Jung believed that the process of individuation, which is the process of becoming an integrated whole, was a kind of journey. And this journey was fraught with challenges and obstacles that the individual had to face. María Sabina's work provides a kind of map for this journey, showing how to navigate the challenges and how to use them as opportunities for growth and transformation. Her work also speaks to the power of metaphor in healing and in personal growth. The Mazatec worldview is deeply holistic, and it sees all aspects of existence as interconnected. This worldview is reflected in María Sabina's work. She doesn't just focus on healing the physical body, but also addresses the emotional, mental, and spiritual aspects of her patients' lives. In this way, her work offers a model for a more integrated and holistic approach to healing and well-being. Let's now talk about how María Sabina's work has influenced modern applications. María Sabina's legacy lives on in many ways today. Her work was a major influence on the 1960s psychedelic movement, and her story has inspired generations of psychonauts and psychedelic researchers. In fact, her work is still being studied and emulated today. Researchers are studying the potential therapeutic applications of psilocybin, the psychoactive compound in mushrooms. And some are even trying to recreate the kind of sacred atmosphere that María Sabina created in her ceremonies. In addition to her influence on the psychedelic world, María Sabina's work is also part of a larger revival of indigenous healing traditions in modern wellness culture. People are increasingly recognizing the wisdom and the power of indigenous cultures and are seeking to incorporate indigenous practices into their own lives. This is not without its challenges, however, and it's important to approach indigenous cultures and practices with respect and sensitivity. We must avoid appropriating or exploiting these traditions and instead seek to learn from and collaborate with indigenous peoples. In conclusion, Sabina was a remarkable woman who dedicated her life to healing and to teaching others how to connect with the spiritual realm. Her legacy continues to inspire and to influence people around the world, and her story is a reminder of the power of indigenous wisdom and the importance of preserving and honoring cultural diversity. Whether we approach her story from a mystical perspective, psychological perspective, or a modern scientific perspective, there's no denying the profound impact that she's had on our understanding of consciousness, healing, and the nature of reality itself. Thanks for watching. If you liked this episode and you'd like to support the channel, please consider becoming a patron. And as always, If you have any feedback or any thoughts you'd like to share, please feel free to leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks again for watching, and take care. Like and subscribe.